right, so buckle up you guys, because this is going to be a long one. We are going to be diving in to what exactly Justin Baldoni is saying in his $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times. Before you say, right, why is he just doing them? No. This is one of many lawsuits, right? Blake is probably going to get it as well. The last time I talked about Blake, I was over a week late to it. Everything had already been covered, but she was basically filing a complaint, but she has now since filed a lawsuit toward Justin Baldoni. I'm not going to be looking into Blake's in this video, just want to be able to get through Justin's before we then move on to Blake's. I've read all of it and I've written a hell of a lot of notes. I'm not a law girly by any stretch of the imagination. I have been very involved with reporting on what's been going on with Blake Lively for a little while. One of the main things that Blake Lively was saying was that as well as it being a smear campaign against Blake Lively, which she alleges through text messages that they had shared between Justin Baldoni's PR team, she alleges that there was a smear campaign done against her. The other side of the coin, she also alleges that there was harassment, sexual harassment, also put her complaint with the New York Times in the description box. The reasoning why Justin is going after the New York Times is because, and he has actually come out with receipts, the New York Times decided to basically pick and choose what elements of text messages were shown to kind of skew what was going on. And we see the full text messages, which is what Justin Baldoni and his team have shown. Whoever was in charge of sharing the altered, the literally edited version of the messages, that's going to be a real issue, because that is skew-whiffing everything. Now Justin Baldoni is going no, that's not right, and he comes with a lot of receipts. Friday, December 20th, there was a response to an imminent 4,000-word bombshell story concerning their alleged orchestration of a smear campaign targeting Blake Lively, purportedly in response to Lively's disclosure of concerns about the working environment on the set of It Ends With Us film. The film's production company Wayfarer, its principals Baldoni and Heath, and its public relations representatives Nathan and Abel were asked to provide on-the-record comment and to notify the Times of any inaccuracies by noon. A mere 14 hours overnight, plaintiff's representative promptly denied Lively's accusations as reported by the Times and criticised both Lively and the Times' reliance on cherry-picked and altered communications stripped of necessary context and deliberately spliced to mislead. They come by and they actually share what is going on with these messages. Listen, Nathan, good morning. Sharing with you a perfect example of why we don't use bots. I wouldn't even worry to think they've hired a team as A, nothing to find, B, they hired an awful team which I've sent to our guy to track and pull so we have evidence of it. Justin, in response to this, how can we say somehow that we are not doing any of this? It looks like we are trying to take her down. Melissa Nathan, it doesn't. They are doing all of this themselves and it's really obvious. Justin then said, okay, please monitor. Things I'm more worried about is that we are planting these stories, which is not true, obviously. Now, this is in direct relation to the fact that what Blake Lively was alleging and what they were alleging, you hire bots to go along and plant stories and write comments and things like that. Blake Lively was alleging that this was going on, and Justin and his team provide messages from the PR team, Melissa Nathan, etc., and Justin Baldoni stating that, they messages to and fro each other, that this was not the case. This is basically just proving the fact that they were singing Blake Lively's praises a little bit. So someone posted in the tag team that It Ends With Us Sony chief praises Blake Lively for advancing the conversation around domestic violence. And Jamie Heath, who basically working and is, I think, funding a lot of this alongside Justin Baldoni, said, so glad Blake was praised. Let her get a win. It would be nice to have a Sony executive praise Justin. The article is predicated on Lively's CRD complaint, which references text exchanges between Nathan and Abel as purported evidence that Nathan planted a negative story in the Daily Mail titled, Is Blake Lively Set to Be Cancelled? Lively's portrayal is categorically false, misleading, and devoid of factual basis, yet knowingly endorsed by the Times, which claimed to have reviewed thousands of pages of text messages. If you remember, there was this picture right here where all it said from Abel, it said, wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece. Did not include was actually the text messaging above, which states, cancelled, the Mail is going nuts. And she said, damn, this is unfair because it is also not me. Everything now looks like it's me. maybe not to you. And all of that was completely excluded. They then went on and they were then talking about the Could Blake Lively Be Cancelled, another piece, and Jen Abel said, wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece, with the upside down smiley face, insinuating sarcasm or insinuating something of that nature. But the Times, or whoever it was, didn't include the bit above which said that this was nothing to do with them, and also decided to take away the upside down smiley that makes them look like they're having this sinister conversation. Lively deliberately excluded not only the preceding screenshot of the text exchange disproving Nathan's involvement in the story, but also the upside down smiley, which fundamentally alters the sarcastic tone of Abel's message and misleads the reader into interpreting her response as serious. I do fully understand. I think when they decided to take away the message above, in which both of them were saying that it was nothing to do with them, and then took away the sarcastic emoji, which changes the whole course of what they're actually joking about. They were in fact joking about it. They weren't being serious. If you take away those elements, it makes it look like they're like supervillains. And I think I said this in my last video, the way that the film was marketed and the way that Blake Lively, you know, went about it in the grab your florals, etc., audience getting very annoyed. But Blake Lively is saying that actually it was the PR team that was planting all of this, all the negative press surrounding the way that Blake Lively was promoting this film. So for instance, in the tag team, we didn't tell Jed to go after the idea that her promo was inappropriate. That happened organically. This is a movie about domestic violence that they wore florals to. Zoe sent me this on Saturday and goes, this is a crazy way to market this movie. They then go on and they share some things which are not putting Blake Lively in a very good light, saying, like, come on, we had nothing to do with that. They do go on and say that the reasoning why the PR team, these people were even hired in the very first place, they weren't hired straight away, they were hired after everything started to go wrong. Then going on as well to show more text messages, Melissa Nathan, none of us would ever do this, it's organic, she's blown herself up by her own actions. And then sharing more, this just ran, obviously none of us knew about this either, but once media goes in, they go in. The content creators are on fire, she has handed it to them all on a plate, just concentrate on the success of the movie. And going on as well with the tag PR, Blake Lively fearing for her career amid it ends with a backlash. I'm not gonna lie, that literally sounds exactly like a YouTube video that I would have titled, but I don't think it was. I was taken aback. I was like, oh god, I better not be on it. And they said, God, I'm so over this. I'm sure Leslie thinks we placed this one as well. The article also deliberately ignores that Lively's publicist Leslie Sloan of Vision PR, once backed by Harvey Weinstein, seeded stories critical of Baldoni, including that Baldoni was a sexual predator ahead of the film's release. Sloan did so even while Nathan attempted to cooperate in good faith. They share a hell of a lot of screenshots, very damning against Leslie Sloan, who was hired by Blake Lively. So obviously Justin and Blake both had their separate people, and Leslie Sloan, who allegedly was once backed by Harvey Weinstein, did not believe for a second that they were not behind all of this. Nathan and Abel spent a lot of time trying to calm down the situation. I will leave all of the text messages and all of the exchanges because there is quite a lot to get through, and believe it or not, the text messages for me are not even the most damning piece of evidence in all of this, so I don't want to spend hours going over each and every one of them, but you can go and read this whole suit for free, and I will leave it in the description box if you want to go and have a little look at all these messages close up. I've gone through all of this in order, and we're just going to address them one by one because, like I say, I actually think that everything else, the text messages are damning, and I believe that whoever the hell was altering and changing and axing out little bits just to prove a point, yeah, that's not cool. There was one bit where Blake Lively was saying that she would be shown pornography without her consent, and basically he comes along and he said, the article based on Lively's CRD complaint sensationally alleges that Mr. Heath had shown Lively a video of his naked wife with Lively's CRD complaint, even labeling the footage as pornography. This claim is patently absurd. And they go and they leave the picture of the actual still. The thing is that his own wife said that it was perfectly okay for Blake Lively to see this video and that they were all fine to be watching it. If the wife has said that's okay for them to share a video of her giving birth, then everyone's okay with watching it. I don't really see what the big issue is. Adding to the sexual harassment narrative is the article's parroted accusation that both men repeatedly entered her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding. What Lively and the article failed to mention is that Lively invited Baldoni into her trailer while pumping. So here they are talking. And Blake Lively said, "I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out our lines." And Justin Baldoni copy, "eating with crew and we'll head that way." And not only that as well, but Justin Baldoni, they also state in this as well, is that Baldoni's wife, what does it say? Baldoni's wife co-founded a company that makes garments for breastfeeding. Allegedly, she would also, during team meetings, so you'd have a whole load of team around, she would breastfeed or she would pump, etc., etc. So, you know, it was never a massive, great big thing, according to his lawsuit. He also goes on to say as well, because Blake Lively alleges that he would make her uncomfortable by calling outfits sexy. He attaches screenshots of him suggesting an outfit decision, and Blake Lively said, "We'll show you both ways, but beanie is much sexier." And he then, you know, would then try and choose outfits or would try and recommend outfits in that style that she was going after. This is according to what the rest of it said. According to parts of the lawsuit as well, she, in the end, was given full creative control over all of the outfits, to the point where Sony was actually getting backlash from people who didn't like the way that it looked, and it got Baldoni into a heap of trouble financially. Point where she actually requested that her character, Lily Bloom, would definitely wear $5,000 worth of shoes, which was completely blowing out budgets. Allegedly, like, she would not turn up for fittings, even though it was a 15-minute walk away from where she lived, and they would all have to come to her, which would of course increase the budget. This is all written in the lawsuit. Another massive thing as well is about the intimacy coordinator. Now, Lively says that they never had an intimacy coordinator and that Justin would suggest scenes to do. Justin decides to share footage of him saying, "Just hired intimacy coordinator who I love, will set you up to meet with her next week for intro. Blake Lively, I feel good, I can meet her when we start, thank you though." Justin then forwards it, "Just wanted to tell you about this, seems she doesn't want to meet intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow, but I can still meet with her of course. Female producer, that's fine if she doesn't want to meet her now, you'll just have to walk her through what you and so were thinking." Both the Times and Lively intentionally exclude that Lively refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out the film's sex scenes. Baldoni in turn was forced to meet with the intimacy coordinator alone and relay any suggestions to Lively separately. Notwithstanding Baldoni's reluctance, he and Lively would later sketch out the scenes together, absent the intimacy coordinator. As part of those creative discussions, Baldoni and Lively sought to personalise and develop their characters, and in doing so, engaged in conversation about their individual experiences. They're not doing it with an intimacy coordinator. That's gonna obviously be semi-uncomfortable if you're already feeling uncomfortable towards a certain person, which allegedly Blake was towards Justin, because you're both having to sit in a room and talking about what you like and what you don't like. Do you know what I mean? Once again, I'm just very confused. She's been saying that they never had one and that Justin didn't want one, which actually doesn't seem like that is the case. He actually booked the intimacy coordinator and she just never turned up. Goes on to say, which is a really poignant thing that they say, the fact is that Lively embarked on a hostile takeover of the production, strong-arming Sony into blessing her with ultimate control. As they became increasingly frantic and unsettled by the usurpation of their roles, Baldoni remained resolute that they continue to take the high road and be proud of the beautiful baby they had all made together. Notwithstanding, Lively waged war on Baldoni, weaponizing innocuous interactions from May and June 2023, long before there was any tension between them, to vilify and discredit him. At the time, Baldoni and Lively had a solid working relationship, and Lively expressed no unease around him. Only after the writers' strike had ended and filming was set to resume did Lively express any concern about returning to set. In response, Wayfarer and Baldoni agreed to all of Lively's demands. What had happened was that Blake had started axing out parts of Baldoni's edit, and that they were actually working on two separate films, it seems like. So there's messages, the dream team, Justin Baldoni, just curious if you guys have peeked at her cut and if anything has changed. Editor 2. Editor, by the way. I have just been told that we are not permitted to look. Justin Baldoni. The editors and director isn't allowed to look at an actress's cut. Got it. Well, here we go. We will keep taking the high road. Just suggest, as the Times does, that plaintiffs engaged in dark acts to destroy Lively's reputation is to ignore that Lively had long-standing reputational challenges and that plaintiffs' public relations efforts were rudimentary, above board, and entirely defensive. They're then going on to talk about editing. Hey, just checking in. Hope you're hanging in there. We're going to get through this, damn it. Justin Baldoni, thanks for checking in. I've sat with it and I think the best path forward spiritually and what's best for the movie is that I suck it up and let her in. I've sent a message requesting that it start on the 18th. We made a beautiful baby together. The baby might not grow up to exactly who we thought, but it's still beautiful. That's what I'm holding on to. Very proud of us. Editor 1. The last I heard was that she was putting back a fair amount of our vision, just not sure what that entailed or to what extent. I guess you'll find out. Crazy thing is that towards the end of this lawsuit, they go on and they're talking about the director's cut, 10-week protection period where basically the director is supposed to just be locked in like the editing process by himself and to be able to have free reign over how it's going to look. So everyone's made it, they're going to sculpt it. Yeah, Blake basically barged her way into that. Not only that, but you know, she's been alleging that all of, you know, she doesn't feel comfortable around him. It would have had to have just been him and her, and she was only meant to stay for 2 days. Just with Justin Baldoni just basically changing so much stuff about this film, but we're going to get onto that in just a minute. Also loads of things as well, saying eye on the prize, her attending BookCon is a win for the film ultimately, and if she wants to drag her ass to Texas and let her, you can be home with your family, which is important. Justin Baldoni, she's kicked me out officially from the film now, she's finishing it all, I can't be involved, music, sound, VPX, everything, I'll make it through somehow, just need to feel it all. Notably absent from the Times' narrative is Lively's insistence on obtaining editing privileges and demanding her own version of the film, a departure from industry standards. Even more egregiously, Lively leveraged her promotional commitments to pressure for the release of her cut. Evidence of Baldoni's efforts to accommodate Lively's demands, including a series of text exchanges with editors who were later replaced by Lively in favour of her husband's editor, underscores the extreme lengths Baldoni went to in order to preserve the film's integrity. Basically, after the writer's strike and after all that had happened, not only had Ryan Reynolds completely rewritten parts that he was not allowed to do, like he just did it. Not only that, but she came in and replaced editors from Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni Studios, with her own editors. Like, crazy. And there's text messages to prove this. If, you know, this is crazy. Dream Team, which is basically Justin Baldoni and all of his editors. Blake wants to know when you could be there next week. Editor 2, I want Blake to feel like she's getting what she wants so we can move on from this need of hers. Justin Baldoni, and she's getting to edit, which is what she wants. Let's remember that. Not only that, but there's also a sequence of text messages as well, which will literally throw it up right here, of Justin saying, yeah, I'm not allowed to go. I've been like axed out of the film, blah, blah, blah. Blake basically said, like, you have to adhere to my terms and agreement. There did in fact come a point where, yeah, Justin Baldoni was told, yeah, you can't even come to the premiere. And we saw them, but they weren't all together. It's because Blake had her little team and then Justin Baldoni had his little team. He had Wayfarer Studios and all of that kind of stuff, and then Blake Lively was over here. Well, allegedly, she basically axed him out, and they weren't even allowed to be in the same room together. Wayfarer Studios had done this like after party, which Blake said you guys are not allowed to come to, and then they had to fund another one, and it was a massive complete mess. The reasoning why they would give in to her demands was because she at all times was threatening to pull out of the film, stop marketing, stop doing this and that. And if she had done that, the film, Justin and everyone had already spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on this film. If she pulled out, that would have been an absolute train wreck, and it would have meant recasting as well. So everything hung on keeping Blake happy, if that makes any sense. It said Baldoni's participation on the red carpet was cut short and his family and friends were confined to a makeshift holding area in the basement before being escorted into a separate theatre after Lively's departure. And goes on to have a series of text messages. Jenna Abel, but nothing we can't get through together. This film will be successful. She has already promoted heavily, so if she backs away now, it looks worse on her. And you just focus on the bigger picture of how this film is going to change the game for you in the studio. Justin said, just find ways to keep me busy when she gets everyone together. Obviously, if the whole cast is making content together, that's her trying to clue people onto there being an issue. Everything she does is calculated, yet also manic. Justin then said, attempting to rewrite history and like I'm not the one who developed this and spent 5 years trying to make it, and like there's an issue with me, it's just mean and hurtful, and she knows exactly what she is doing. Images as well of Justin Baldoni in the hospital. Lively felt that she was fat shamed. Well, Justin Baldoni had an infection in his spine, pretty serious. He had slip discs and all that kind of stuff whilst the marketing of this film was going on. Editor said, damn, then just take care of yourself. If Blake is so determined to handle the marketing on the movie, then just let her. And he said the amount of women who feel seen, that it's reaching people all over the world, that men are remembering their own traumas and having conversations with their partners. That's why we did this and it worked. Still the dream team. Okay, so this is now going to go into a little bit of backstory about for more details. All right, so Blake Lively and her wardrobe. Now, I just mentioned that Blake Lively, basically on or around May 15th, during pre-production, Lively began to assert control over aspects of the film beyond her role as an actor and outside the scope of her contractual entitlements, which lead actors are sometimes granted approval over the general look of their on-screen character. This authority typically does not include full control over wardrobe decisions without input from the director and producers. Nevertheless, Lively overstepped these boundaries, sidelining the production's costume designer, a seasoned professional with a long-standing working relationship with Lively. He ended up taking full creative control over this, and she would say, you know, my character, Lily Bloom, definitely wears $5,000 worth of shoes. She wouldn't turn up for fittings, and she would make everyone run around and, you know, dress her at her own place, which was 15 minutes away. Granted, she might have been, she's breastfeeding and all of that, I understand, but it was like really exemplifying the budget. And this would obviously cause a bit of tension, considering it was not going very well with the audience when people were seeing snippets of, you know, behind the scenes what this character was looking like, and Sony was getting a lot of backlash for it. These images were described as unflattering and sparked a backlash from the film's distributor, Sony. Baldoni received direct criticism from Sony, who voiced concerns about the impact of the photos on the film's perception. Following these events, Baldoni approached Lively in her trailer to discuss necessary wardrobe adjustments. The conversation, while professional, took considerable time and was later grossly misrepresented in Lively's CRD complaint, falsely characterizing the exchange as a lengthy outburst where he was crying, because in Lively's complaint it said that he would just burst into her trailer and begin screaming and crying about it. Well, this is apparently in his eyes, this is actually what went down. Lively later leveraged this conversation in support of her allegations of harassment, alleging that Baldoni made inappropriate comments on her appearance. In reality, Baldoni was relaying the distributor's concerns and the widespread social media criticism regarding the wardrobe's failure to meet audience expectations. And this next little bit is going to get a little bit like, what the hell? It's going to bring Ryan Reynolds more into it. So what happened next was that Lively began changing the script. She decided to start rewriting it, changing it, bearing in mind the script had already been written. She even had the power to do this, but once again, everyone could kind of see what was going on, so they were like, okay, chill, yeah, you do it, because we don't really want to replace you at this point. We spent so much money on this thing. It was a whole entire thing about the fat and the back and all of that, and he didn't want to have to lift. He wanted to know how much she weighed, because he can't lift anything that's too heavy, because he's, as it showed right there, he literally was in hospital. They were actually invited to a penthouse where Ryan Reynolds started screaming at Justin Baldoni, and he left. There were editors and all sorts who were saying that is the worst way I think I've ever seen anyone speak to a human being ever. And then it says, in fact, Lively threatened to quit the production altogether despite her contractual obligations. Lively gave Baldoni an ultimatum to either cast someone else or work with her in the way she works. It was her way or the highway. To highlight the effects of masterful gaslighting, Baldoni and Wayfarer also truly believed that in an effort to save herself from the backlash of being recast, Lively could leak that she felt fat-shamed by Baldoni, which he thought would ruin his career, which basically has already happened anyway. So their whole wanting to get PR people to mitigate what is going on isn't really worth anything, because this has now happened. This part is about the protection letter. It says Lively sets the stage for coercion by drafting a protection letter that intentionally misrepresents the nature of the conversations had between Baldoni and or Heath, and Lively demands Wayfarer parties sign for Lively to return to work after the industry strikes. So not only are they coming back after the industry strikes, Ryan Reynolds has also rewritten things. Blake is refusing to come back unless everyone do what she says. The strikes ended on November 9th. Production was eager to resume filming. That same day, however, Wayfarer receives an unsettling and unexpected email from Lively through her counsel containing a 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. Though Wayfarer disagreed as to the basis for requesting these conditions, the terms were agreeable and some were already in place. For example, Lively demanded that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times. An intimacy coordinator was always there. Also says, Lively suggests Heath walked in her trailer unannounced while in state of undress and topless, which is false. Heath was invited into her trailer along with a female producer, Baldoni, and a Sony representative for a meeting requested by Lively. Mr. Heath arrived first to see if Lively was ready for the meeting, and after knocking and being invited in, saw that Lively was breastfeeding. She was not topless. She was having makeup removed from her collarbone while fully clothed. This is the real bombshell bit where they're talking about the CRD complaint, where they were saying that everyone was signing documents and that, people should stop harassing and basically all the stuff that we've kind of just gone through. It said on the very first page of her CRD complaint, Lively inaccurately claims that a list of 30 items was agreed upon during this meeting. This assertion is categorically false. The 30-point list is strategically positioned to appear as if it were a standalone written document. However, no such document was ever presented to Baldoni, the Wayfarer team, or to their knowledge anyone else, whether during that meeting or at any other time, and therefore could not have been agreed to. That piece of paper that was produced, they'd never seen it before ever. I honestly, I swear, I was bamboozled. Listening to this whole entire thing, I was as bamboozled as you guys probably are. To talk about the 10-week protection period where the director gets to sit and they get to do their own cut. Now, the thing that has actually happened, which I think that was already leaked anyway, is that there were 2 finished cuts to present to an audience, who then watch it and decide. They were presented Baldoni's version, bearing in mind he's a director, and then Blake's. The audience actually preferred Baldoni's, but because Baldoni was had to give in to Blake, he scrapped his and let Blake's go. So the version that we've seen of this film isn't actually his director's cut, it's Blake's. Unsurprisingly, despite Baldoni's cut scoring significantly higher with audiences and the film's target demographic went forward on her promise, she insisted that her cut be the version released to the public, even going so far as to claim that the author of the book would also refuse to promote the film if Lively's version was not chosen. Under immense pressure, Sony and Wayfarer once again conceded. So it does go on a little bit and it goes into more further detail about things that I've just discussed. There's a whole thing about having different PG rights, qualifications, all of that kind of stuff, which I'm not 100% sure on because I don't know anything about directing or film or anything, but allegedly she wasn't even supposed to get that, but they made that one happen for her. But basically, in a nutshell, ending with the fact that Blake is saying that they ran a smear campaign, but he's then proving with text messages, or I think proving for the most part at least, that they didn't hate her, because they were actually praising her in a lot of the things and wanting her to take the crown. Do you know what I mean? It's very odd. When they got those text messages, they must have read them and seen that actually it wasn't like that. But do you know what I mean? It's not like they were given the edited pictures. They edited the pictures to make it look like they were actually being evil supervillains. But then when you look at the entirety of the text exchanges, it's clear to see, at least from what they're showing and what Blake showed, that they were fairly supportive of her and they were saying that they had nothing to do with it. and that they were actually wanting her to go and do it just so that they could get the film over and done with. I haven't actually read Blake's. I'm just going to put that out there because it took so long to get through this one. I haven't read Blake's yet, but I'm going to get through it if I can read it tonight. This is my opinion just based on this one and the one that the complaint. Baldoni's argument, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing with the fact that Blake's team and them have literally sabotage themselves by choosing to take out parts of text messages. The fact that she's lying about never having an intimacy coordinator, like, that's not true. The fact that she would invite them into their thing to breastfeed, the whole pornography thing. Maybe there was other bits that we just don't know about, who really knows. But the fact that, you know, actually what he's saying they're talking about is a birthing video, which was given permission to show by the actual woman who's giving birth. I feel like she's definitely misinterpreted, or she's definitely lied about things. If you catch someone lying about something once, even as much as say the intimacy, if you're lying about something once, you're going to lie about something again. And I feel like there are so many things that she was saying full chest in that complaint, like there was no intimacy coordinator, you know, they were trying to do this, they were trying to do that, and then he's then gone, actually, no, and shown things to prove it. It means that to some degree she was lying. You don't want to be lying in court documents. Even if it's a complaint, you don't want to be lying. Like, anyway, it says in his thing that there's going to be there's more lawsuits. So let us just wait. This has been an extremely long video, and I'm sorry if I wasn't putting it together in the most amazing way. Like I say, I'm not a law girly. I was apprehensive about reading it because I feel like this is a really big thing that's happening and I've followed it for so long now that I really wanted to discuss it, and I'm sorry if it wasn't put in the most like concise way because obviously I'm not a law girly, but I just wanted to share with you. I will leave everything linked in the description box, and I will probably get back to you with Blake's. I need to brace myself for yet another 80, 90, 100 page document, but thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are in this world. Take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch up with you guys in the next video.